Grandma and evil Lurks, smash or pass?
Dude, don't make me answer that. Hey there, guys. What's up? Welcome back to Himbo Horror Podcast, the only podcast in the world where cigars are not mandatory but recommended.
I had a long day, Doug, and so I was like, I'm doing this, and I don't care if it looks or not. I started laughing because I was like, what you guys didn't hear is I was like, all right, we're gonna start in 3, 2, 1, and then it got quiet. I don't know why, it just bubbled the out of me.
Yeah, I froze, man. This is my first time being on camera, so I'm getting a little uncomfortable.
I was so antsy,
I actually smoke cigars too, but I smoke the cigar of the basic white dude.
Oh, a little coil cigar. I love to see it. A hot coil. Okay, so we've got a really exciting episode, we think. So we are we're at the adolescent stage of our podcast, right? And so we know at its core what we want to do. But Doug and I talked, and we want to start doing some movie recaps and some reviews and give some things some ratings. And we were really spoiled in horror the last really couple of years, Doug. So it's like, it'd be good to just break the movie down versus being like, oh, good movie, whatever. So that's what we want to do.
Yeah, we figured we're in the early stages of the Himbo Horror Podcast, right? We can kind of go a lot of directions, and we want to go in all the directions. Like, we love the horror genre, so we're going to kind of not limit ourselves to anything. And there's too many good movies. It's like, we could sit here and talk, like you said, Eric, you made a great point. Like, the last couple of years have been insane for horror. Right? So it's like, we have so much to talk about. And then even the last few months, we got so much to talk about. So it's just like, we're not going to limit ourselves. We'll jump back. We'll take our time capsules to the past, and we'll talk about old stuff. We'll get into arguments about classic stuff. I'm going to convince Sally to like Terrifier eventually. We're going to do all these things.
Never going to happen.
About the history of Himbo Horror Podcast. But for now, we're going to talk about an outstanding film that we both agreed was kind of out of left field and kind of something that we didn't really go into expecting it to blow us away. And I think by the end of this, we're going to pretty close to agree that we both got blown away. We're talking about No One Will Save You.
Yep.
It was a horror exclusive to Hulu. And again, I had never heard of it. Eric, had you ever heard of this before it gained widespread popularity?
Not at all. And I think actually this is one of the, I got to give you some kudos because normally your recommendations, I feel like I have to watch because we're best friends and I know it's going to be painful. This is one that you actually recommended. And I was like, okay, here's another one. And then absolutely loved it. I actually watched it as a family. So both kids and my fiance we all watched it together, and we just all loved it for different reasons. So
weird flex, man. He's got a whole
oh yeah, my whole family. Yeah,
like, I'm smoking a cigar after
watched
my hard day at work. My family and I watched the movie. I had some steaks for dinner.
I did.
What were you up to, Doug? I'm like, well, I got there was a half of a McGriddle in the garbage can outside of McDonald's. I had that, and then
someone gave me the rest of their 7-Up. It was pretty great. It wasn't even hot yet. It wasn't even warm yet.
But seriously, you make a great point. It's one of those films. I believe it was PG-13. We'll have to get our fact checkers on that, but I'm pretty sure it was PG-13.
So you're the one that pays attention to that. If you ask me a movie right now if it's PG-13, like I can make a really good guess. Like obviously like Evil Dead Rise was probably not PG-13, right? But I never pay attention to that at all. So I need to start paying more attention to it because I understand that that's a whole like discussion in the horror community is PG-13 horror movies.
Yeah, so it was a PG-13 horror movie. So, which again, like you said,
that makes sense.
It is a thing in the greater horror community because a lot of people look down on PG-13, and with good reason, because I think a lot of times PG-13 really kind of limits and restricts what the creative direction, like what they can do with it, right? Like,
right.
There's a lot, there's a lot of areas that you want to explore in horror that maybe a rating that keeps a child able to see the film would kind of limit you from. But this one, I mean, there is no limiting factor. It's a fantastic film.
Well, and you have to deliver a certain type of message with PG-13 horror, right? Like it's easy when the blood, guts, and someone getting their head chopped off, that can carry your message, right? That's a very scary event. But you have to do a lot of like implied gore. You have to do a lot of, a lot of implications, and you have to make someone feel uneasy, right? Versus scared necessarily. But so, and just to preface real quick, we've got a couple movies to unpack here, but we do want to say that we are going to talk about some spoilers here. So we don't mind. We're not going to go into super great detail. One, because Doug and I just don't have the memory to do all that. But we are going to kind of walk through a little bit of what we thought in certain scenes and etc. So if you've not seen the movie, No One Will Save You, and you're one of those people that does not want to have a spoiler or whatever, totally understand that. And Doug, real quick, before we get into this, I've been the type of person, if there's like some super big mystery, like, Voldemort, or like a big event like Voldemort dying, then I don't want a spoiler. If you're just telling me kind of what happens, I've never been the type of person that's gotten bothered by being like, yeah, and then this happened, and then that happened. I still want to go see it, but I totally get other people. But
And I'm on the opposite end. I don't like to know anything. Like the best way for me to watch a film is like without even seeing the trailer. Like I just want to go in and get everything for the first time. And you know, my brain's weird, and like so sometimes I'll like fixate on things if I see something in a trailer. A major spoiler, I'll still watch it, but like it definitely deflates me a lot.
right,
Minor spoilers I try to avoid. There is that you mentioned earlier, the memory factor though. Like a lot of times I'll see a trailer. If I watch a trailer months ahead, we're good. But I'll tell you a personal anecdote that I previously used to watch horror movies with a person who was like obsessed with seeing the trailer right before we watched the movie, and it kind of low key ruined it for me because I don't want to watch the trailer. Like I got to the point where I'd like get up and leave, and then they would watch the trailer, and then I'd come back and watch the film
sure.
because
I know people like that. Yeah.
yeah, I just don't want to see like, okay, I'm about to watch the movie. Like, let me be surprised. I've already committed to the film. You know, I don't need to be convinced.
We're
by
gonna watch it in 5 minutes.
Right?
Yeah, right.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, like for instance, I watched the Thanksgiving trailer, right, which was a banger.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to see that film for another month or two, right? Probably. So it's not by then. You know, I'll have seen enough shiny things and I'll have pet enough cats that I'll be like, oh my god, it's all new and exciting. You know, so
Right.
but with that being said, another thing we want to say is like we've been kind of talking offline about it'd be neat to have you guys kind of like watch the films ahead. Like I've been announcing on the Twitter like what we're gonna see and we're gonna talk about. So that way you guys can like watch it and then like kind of talk like you can kind of be a part of the conversation with the comments and whatnot, right? Like you guys, it's almost like a horror movie book club sort of thing.
Mhm.
Where like, you know, you're gonna know what we're gonna see. So hopefully we can enhance the experience for you.
Yes, and big announcement, Doug. This is something that we have confirmed. We don't have a date yet or an initial project, but we have discussed, and something that we want to do is starting a Patreon where we actually will watch a movie together. You know, obviously with content online and YouTube, etc., that gets really challenging to do, but we know that we want to do that. And it's easy to do because so many good horror movies come out all the time now. And so that is something to be on the lookout for, is we're going to be starting a Patreon, and it'll get Doug and Tally watching something live, which that's going to be, I feel like that's going to get really toxic just because we're watching it together. We don't have any time to think about it. Yeah. So
it's unrestricted and like not planned.
Yeah.
Right? And then the other side of that is if you're not able to make it, because we know we have people that are all over the world that enjoy our content and, you know, our friends and whatnot. We will also have like videos of those available. So you'll be able to see the video and, you know, you can kind of go check it out afterwards if you decide to join the Patreon. So that's something that's probably like end of this year, early next year sort of plan. We're going to try and kind of build some steam, build some momentum here on Himbo Horror. But it's something that we're really both excited about. So you guys can get excited about that.
That's when I watch horror movies, man.
I know.
You know what I mean?
So good. And then again, I know this is supposed to like, we have a title and we're supposed to talk about a movie, but I just wanted to say like Himbo Horror for me has like reinvigorated my drive to watch all these new movies and stuff. Like I'm just so like hyped to keep watching like the stuff that's coming out and then just absolutely dunk on Eric every time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay.
It, you know, yeah.
I've been stoked about using a lot of, because I've been watching a lot of horror movies for years now, all the time, and it's like it was just useless knowledge, you know, of like movies. And so I also sometimes could need the challenge of a different perspective, just because I'm pretty set in my ways as far as what I like, what I don't like. So the podcast has kind of had me reach out to other types of horror genres or subgenres, or maybe watch movies that I probably would have skipped over before. And caught something else. So that's been good. But we did. So we're talking about the first one. Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
Can I say one last thing? This is
Do
really
it forever.
I'm going to compliment you. All right. So if you guys are wondering how dedicated Tally Hobro is to the Himbo Horror podcast and how much he cares, we did the Terrifier episode and he kind of embarrassed himself a lot.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So what he did is he went back and he's rewatching the Terrifier series in order to better equip himself for the next time we discuss it. And so, and if you know, you watched the episode, you know how much he fucking hated Terrifier. And this man literally is rewatching the series. If that's not dedication to content creation and a craft, I don't know what it is.
Thank you. I rewatched both Terrifiers, and I watched All Hallows Eve and All Hallows Eve 2. I watched All Hallows Eve 2 twice, by the way.
Oh yeah, you did.
I did, and my
DMs were.
Do you know why I watched it twice? Because I said I watched it, and then I told Samantha, "Look at this piece of shit Doug made me watch," and then I made her watch it, and she was upset, but she wasn't upset with me. She was upset with you.
I'm super getting uninvited to the wedding, I feel like.
Yeah, bro. Well, it's pretty fast.
Samantha's the real victim here, bro. Like, all right, let's talk about No One Will Save You.
Yes.
Right? That's what we're here for. So No One Will Save You. It launched on Hulu. Out of left field. I remember I was scrolling on Twitter and I follow a lot of horror accounts, and somebody who I have a lot of respect for posted just a screenshot of the No One Will Save You. Like it's like the movie poster, but like 2023 version. So it's on Twitter, and he was like, "Wow, learn nothing about this movie, go in blind, and you are going to be blown away. This was an incredible film, and I don't say that often." And so I was like, "Okay, you piqued my interest. I like everything anyways, but this is going to be great." So I went in knowing nothing about the film, and I sat and watched it, and it's like I had high expectations. And so typically we've talked about it with Talk to Me, we talked about it with other films that kind of get built way up, and then I watch it and I kind of feel let down.
Yeah.
With this one, it like exceeded the expectations. I went in with high expectations, so
Yeah.
it was yeah, it was an incredible thrill ride. Eric, first impressions? Or
Yeah, I considered it remarkable. And just again, because I feel like, you know, for horror today, you know, again, we're numb to it. We see so many horror movies now. So to really stand out, you have to have some attributes and to approach it in a unique way that gets someone's attention again. And so the thing I liked most about No One Will Save You is that it has a unique antagonist, right? It's got ambiguity, which I always think that ambiguity, at least for me in horror movies, I really enjoy that. Just kind of the how did it end? What does that mean to you kind of thing. It starts a discussion. And I also thought that some of the like subtext in it was really good. So they have like home invasion, right? So people that have a fear of home invasion. So for those of you that don't know, I mean, aliens come to town, right? And the movie starts out with a woman that's kind of piecing her life back together after her mother had passed away, her childhood friend. They keep hinting that there was something that happened to her childhood friend. You don't really understand that till the end. But she's kind of living alone, and you could tell the town like hates her too. There's like this weird vibe. So either way, it starts off with aliens like coming to her house, and it's a home invasion type of thing. And just breaking down just the way they did home invasion, I thought was so good and so clever. Like the quick pattering footsteps approaching, but then nothing's there. The shadow figures that were moving around the house. And I will tell you, Doug, that I loved that part. And then the first time they actually showed an alien, I saw the alien for what it was, and was just like, please don't suck. Please don't be bad. Because it could have been gimmicky so fast. So the remainder of the movie is showing this alien invasion that's not happening just to her home. It's happening all over, right? All over the world.
Yeah.
And it kind of takes off from there. So, but no, the home invasion portion of it, I loved it at the very beginning.
Yeah, so again, you touched on it, and it's a huge part for me. Is like they really kind of they took your typical, you know, alien invasion, like, oh God, you know, what's gonna happen, and then like they tied in the home invasion was like a huge chunk of the first act, right? Which was really remarkably well done. And I love what you said about when they reveal the alien. They definitely didn't try to do too much. They wanted to keep it really basic and really simple, because what you're going to find out as you watch the film is this isn't just an alien movie. This isn't just her versus the alien. It's her versus the world.
Right.
Like she's in this bubble. She's in this isolation chamber. And so it's like, you know, everybody's already against me. Now I've got this other threat that's against me.
Yeah.
And how am I going to deal with that? How am I going to react to that? And as they're doing that, they're piecing together her story and telling you more and more what's been going on to lead her to this point. And then you take a trip with her through the final act, which was, again, it's like they did enough for it to be great, and they never tried too hard. They never did too much. They never shoved anything down your throat. But they also didn't make it so ambiguous that you couldn't piece it together. And then, like you said, the actual final act, the finale, where you get like the reveal, you get the ending, they kind of leave it a little open to interpretation. And it's just it was one of those movies where, and again, we're trying to keep the spoilers light, right? But like, it's not like anything I've ever seen. And the delivery method of the story, it kind of, and again, you haven't seen Skinamarink, but it kind of reminds me of Skinamarink, where they didn't just, it wasn't people reading off of scripts. There was a different delivery method to get the story to you. And
there's very little dialogue in the entire movie. I think there might be no dialogue, if I remember right. There's just like,
okay, so this is a major spoiler, but she speaks one line in the film.
Yes, I'm sorry, but the movie, the body of the movie is like basically no dialogue. Yeah. It's a lot of just visualizations. Yeah, well, and I also like that, you know, because if you follow along with the story, right, there's like 4 stories happening at the same time. There's maybe 3 stories. There's her childhood friend that something happened to that we don't know yet. And so there are parts of the movie that story will take a leading role. and that is the main portion of kind of what you're following along with. And then boom, the alien invasion comes back as the leading role, and then the her relationship with the town will take a leading role in the story.
Yeah.
And so they're all being told at the same time, right? But they're kind of taking turns of, but at the end you reach a resolution with almost all of them except the kind of ambiguous ending, which I loved the ending. And again, we don't have to do spoilers, but I never really left off. I looked around the house and was asking, my family that I have, Doug, is I was asking them about how they thought it ended, and we all kind of came up with pretty different answers, which I loved. That I thought that was so cool.
Well, and that's good because like they did that, but not in a way where you felt cheated or felt like,
Yeah, right.
I'm sure we've all seen the open ending where it's like you wrote the open ending because you didn't really know how you wanted to end it. With this, it's like it's like a genuine like kind of it's a compelling open ending. It's like it's gonna inspire conversation. It's gonna inspire disagreement. It's great.
I appreciate that about it too, because it's such a risk to take, dude. Have you ever like finished a movie and been like, what the fuck was that? You know what I mean? Like, and you just like almost are upset about it that you wasted, hours.
Cheated.
Yeah, 100%. And so this one, I didn't feel cheated at all. I felt challenged. I was like, okay, well, I need to kind of piece this together, and maybe I need to watch it again. Any movie that leaves you off with like, maybe I need to watch that again. I thought that was pretty good. So
again, I'm not a huge rewatch guy, and I am going to rewatch this film.
Out of all the movies on our list today, Doug, we've got 3 to talk about. Is that the one that you would say if you had to have someone watch tomorrow, would you say start there? Or do you have another one on the list? Yeah, I think that's mine on the list too.
And again, and this is one, like I said, you made the joke that I like everything, and so my recommendations are risky. But like, I think I made it really clear when I reached out to you about it. I was like, bro, this is not Doug excitement. This is amazing. This is one of the best alien movies I've ever seen, and that's not a small thing. And when we get to the rating portion, I'm gonna rate this pretty high because it was, again, like iconic alien films. There's none like this. It's nothing. And then again, we talked about how the delivery method of the story was very unorthodox. There was not a lot of dialogue, but and when you would feel like something like that would maybe kind of feel incomplete or feel unsatisfying, but like they nailed it.
Yeah, our best friend Gary actually came up with a really good thing. He was telling me, he asked me a question. He goes, would it be a good book? About talking about horror movies. And so if you ask yourself, would this one be a good book? It's like, yeah, I think it's a great story just by itself. Even if you took the aliens out of it and inserted a different antagonist, I still feel like it would be a really good movie. So,
I mean, in fact, I would argue that this would probably be better as a book because you get more fleshed out, history. You get to learn, like, you become more attached to certain characters that we never got a chance to really meet, other than just through like, breadcrumb trails of like, this is a person, this is a thing. You could really, I think that it would be a phenomenal book. So that's a great man. Gary is a really wise and
wise British man, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you've not seen No One Will Save You, I highly recommend it. Doug highly recommends it. We rarely agree, so I feel like this is one that you gotta kind of capture onto.
Yep, I would agree with you completely. So do we want to maybe hit this with a rating out of 5 stars, or?
Man, I really feel weird about like going right in with the 5 out of 5. But I feel like I got to do a 5 out of 5 on this one. I'll give it a 5 out of 5.
I don't know if I would go a 5 out of 5.
Well, this is the type of stuff that speaks to me so well. You know what I mean? So like I would say 5 out of 5 because I'm trying to think of like what else I'd give a 5 to. You know what I mean? And so like what else would I give 5 out of 5 ratings to? Well, my type of ratings, any type of movie like No One Will Save You, or even like, When Evil Lurks or Barbarian or whatever, I probably will give those 4s and 5s. If you ask me to do Terrifier, those are my 1s and 2s. Like, so just to understand our rating a little bit better, Doug, what would you rate like Terrifier? We know where I am on the spectrum and where you are. Is that a 5 movie for you, a 4?
No,
or?
I mean, no, personal 5, definitely. But like, if I'm being objective and I'm really talking about like, there's a widespread audience that's going to watch a film. I mean, Terrifier, the original Terrifier would probably be like a 2, maybe a 3. Like it gets so much from me because Terrifier 2 for me is a 4 and a personal 5. Like I would call Terrifier 2 a 4 because, again, taking all my personal bias out of it for the splatter category, Terrifier 2 was phenomenal. And again, We will.
Okay,
We
well,
can.
I retract my 5 then because you're right. I can't just be throwing out 5s. I'll lose
Right, yeah,
credibility.
yeah. And again, like
I'm gonna
I'm
give it
not going to call Terrifier 2 a 5. You know that
I'll
I'm
give it a
like being
4.
objective.
I'll give it a
Yeah,
4. A
that's what I was going
solid
to go with
4.
the 4 too. I was going to go with 4,
Rock
maybe
solid.
like rock hard, just
Rock hard
girthy 4.
4. Just the girthiest 4 you've ever seen, dude. A
Dude, I'm gonna bust
Valentine's Day 4, dude.
4 and it's edging 4.5. I feel like.
Yeah.
It's right on the edge. It's
Yeah.
about to bust.
It's about to 4.5 any minute. You know what I mean?
Any second, yeah.
Yeah.
I get
So,
the tell.
well, so the next topic that we have, then I think that I think it's
Wait.
what?
Were we gonna split these, or are we gonna do them in one go? What's your thought? We
How
can
long,
just have
how long have we been doing this
see that
thing?
they can see the creative process. This is so much fun. You guys can see the creative process because we're still hammering things out. Do we want to
Just edit it out.
episodes, or do we want to do it all?
Well, I don't even know how long we've been talking.
About 20 minutes.
Oh man, let's just knock him the fuck out, dude. You know what I'm saying? Cuh.
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
Fuck it. No, do you know what, man? Fuck it. We ball.
Yeah, or we can just
When Evil Lurks. Okay, so we just spent so much time having so much fun talking about an incredible film. I thought it was incredible. I reached out to Tally. I said, Tally, you got to watch No One Will Save You. He said, boom, done, did it. Came back, boom, incredible. So it's Tally's turn. Tally checks out When Evil Lurks. Now, I had this movie on my radar because, again, the same guy that recommended No One Will Save You tweeted that he was watching it. And he rates out of 5, and he gave it 3.5 out of 5. And I was like, that's a solid rating. And then Tally gets into the DMs and is like, bro, you are going to fucking love this movie. You have to watch this movie.
Yeah. And then what happened? And then tell him what happened.
I watched it, and we're just going to skip to the end, and we'll talk about it. But I thought it was good. It was okay.
You be honest with the people. I was like,
it was a fine film.
You said it was meh. And I was like, bro, what do you mean? And then you told me all the things you thought were meh. And I'm like, did you even watch it? So good. Yeah. Now that we're fighting, I'm happy. So the movie's When Evil Lurks. Okay. It came out. What streaming platform was that on, Douglas?
It was on Shudder.
Shudder. Thank you. Okay. And it's so good. Okay. So I'm trying to find a good way to recap it. But again, you could tell why you guys are going to, when you watch it, you're going to find out pretty quick what type of horror I'm into. But it was super unique. The antagonist was a super unique, almost like a plague of like a demon plague that was infecting a town. And you find out that one of these things has gotten into in rural farmland that someone's got this disease, if you will. And so a bunch of people are trying to keep it hush and then get rid of it. But then it starts to.
They got the rotten.
The rotten, yeah.
Were you paying attention? That's the problem.
I don't want to say anything that's not gonna I don't want to if I say the rotten, people that haven't seen it are gonna be like, oh, makes no sense to me. But a demon plague.
You just tell them that it's the rotten. I mean, anyways, go on, please.
Okay, it's called the rotten, right? And so either way, but you also learn that there are these people. This has happened to the town before, and there's this group of people that have cleansed the rotten out of this town, and so. But what I love so much about the movie was again, it's a foreign film. And so I hated reading the subtitles, and I never watch foreign films just because of the subtitles alone. I'm probably missing a lot of badass Korean ones and Vietnamese ones. I know that those are always metal. But I just never watched foreign films. And so I did. And I thought the horror scenes, like the actual when horror was happening, whether someone's dying or getting killed or whatever, were just so metal. It reminded me of Evil Dead Rise, that just gnarly, no one's safe, kids aren't safe, dogs aren't safe, nothing. It was just we're going straight horror with it. So I thought those were brilliant. The story had some moments to it that I get had some lacklusterness to that, but I felt like it made up for it.
Let's not rush. So I'm gonna go ahead.
Oh, you want to take it slow? Oh,
yeah. Look me in the eyes. No.
Whose rotten is it?
It's my rotten, boys. All right. So I agree with you on the metal. I agree with you that there was some great violence. There was some great kills. There was some shocking moments. There was a moment that I was like, no shot, this is about to happen, and we all knew it was gonna happen. And if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And then, but let's just say that no one has plot armor in this film. Man, woman, or child, animal, like Tally said, everybody is up for.
Yeah, I think it's a fair warning to say animal stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but what I will say about that is that's almost a knock in the sense that I felt like they blew a lot of the shocking moments and a lot of the really aggressively metal, as you put it, moments early in the movie, and then like in the later acts, like it kind of toned down and got really like story heavy, and then got like the final act. A lot of stuff happens like off screen, and it's like, you set this precedent that this is going to be brutal. It's going to be a thrill ride. You need to keep the puke bucket next to you, and then it just sort of peters out. And that was, to me, like one of my first big complaints is like, you blew all the big shocking stuff like in the first 45 minutes, and then the second 45 minutes was just, it kind of dragged a little bit. And then
I hate this for us right now. I hate this for us. Go ahead. Yes.
no, you can go ahead, because I was going to move on to the story. 'Cause the story's like the next thing.
I do understand that, like I said, the story became lackluster, and I not lackluster. I think they just, at some point they have to tell a story, and that's my problem with Terrifier, is like metal, super hardcore scenes with no story to tell. And I feel like I'm the type of person that I need the story told as well. And so I'm okay with the story needing to be told, and especially if you're gonna do something unique. This is a unique story. Can you at least say this is a very unique?
It was a very unique.
So you have to tell it.
It's a unique take on the possession genre. Like, it's a possession film, and I will agree with you that it's unique. And I wish that they hadn't fumbled it so hard, because what they do is there are multiple instances of story incongruencies. Like, there are things that, like, they don't. Horror movies have rules. I mean, Randy and Scream told us all about
this for rules.
Yeah. What is that? Is that a like,
it's Febreze cigar? Go ahead. I'm so sorry. I pointed my Febreze at you. I was just angry. I was upset.
It's fine. That's fine. I felt a little threatened, but luckily we have thousands of miles between us, so I'm probably going to be okay.
You're just going to smell nice. You're just going to smell great.
I wish I could smell nice. Something's going on with me. Anyways, yeah. So there were story incongruencies, and I'm going to get into some heavy spoilers because it's important for me to illustrate one of my major issues. What really pulled me out of the movie is that, again, in The Conjuring, in The Nun, in Terrifier, like the antagonists have rules. They have things that like are congruent, so it's consistent. You understand. So in the opening affliction plague scene, right? The old man, I can't remember, Ruiz kills the goat, which is infected with the rotten. So he kills the goat, and he's been warned on numerous occasions that if you use a firearm on it, it'll unleash, right? He knows that he's doing that. He does it anyways, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. And again, you can copium your way into saying like, well, maybe he was like passively affected by it, and it affected his ability to make the right decision in the moment.
No, I don't think that's it.
But he kills it, and then his wife, who's next to him, kills him and then kills herself. Okay, so all right,
in a badass way, by the way. It's awesome.
So metal. It's a great scene. It's a great scene. One of the best in the movie, which again happened in the first 12 seconds of the movie. It's like, cool, you just used one of the coolest scenes in the movie, and now it's over. So I'm watching this film, and I'm telling myself, I'm not a really smart guy, so I have to like really try hard to understand things. And I'm like, okay, so when it gets out, everyone around it is affected, and then that's okay. That's the thing, right? Because he didn't kill. I am in my mind thinking like, okay, he's gonna turn and kill his wife. It's gonna be brutal. No, she kills him. Okay, cool. That's what happens. So then later on in the film, the rotten, which we find out in a really, really brutal scene, can also affect animals, because the animals are smelling the clothes that were on one of the characters, and when he was handling the source rotten, if you will, and the dog loses its mind. And they mention in passing that it affects animals more than people. Like the signs that the rotten is taking over is that animals will start acting really crazy. Right. So we all know as we're watching, this dog's about to lose its fucking mind, and it's a big scary dog, so it's cool. And again, I suspected that the dog was going to take out one of the adult characters, but no, the dog grabs the little girl.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. So real quick, before you get too far away, I want to go back to the Ruiz comment. So the goat scene for me, the reason I think I might be interpreting that different. So Ruiz, the entire time from the start of the movie, he's shown that his fear is making him be irrational, and to kind of have a brash reaction to things, right? He's not thinking things through. He was going to go kill the rotten right in the house. He thought about that. They told him not to. He still almost did it. They decided to move him, right? Which is something that they weren't supposed to do. The mother of the rotten was saying the whole time, like, you're not supposed to do that, blah, blah, blah. You have to have someone come here and cleanse them. Whenever he fell out of the truck, they were just like, yeah, just leave it. He's like, yeah, this is good enough. Just leave it. So he's showing multiple times that he's just like angry and fearful and like panicking, and his panic is what's causing him to be irrational. They hinted to that over and over and over again. So even though he knows he's not supposed to do it, there were several things he knew he wasn't supposed to do. He just did them anyway because he was like irrationally angry, fearful, upset, panicky. And so I think that's why he shot the goat, was just like he was I don't think he was possessed or anything like that at that point. I think he was just like pissed and frustrated.
And I will give you that specifically. That Ruiz scene is the suspension of disbelief for me is not enough for me to be like, God, I can't see that. But there are other incongruencies, even involving Ruiz, because for whatever reason they have a dialogue in the very early stages of the film where it's revealed that Ruiz hates the two brothers who are the main protagonists of the
Right.
film, right? And so this is going to be one of a few examples of like why did they even bring that up? Because you never see that actually communicate. It doesn't actually impact the film at all. They mention that Ruiz hates him, but then him and Ruiz are like boys. They're like moving the rotten. They're talking. They're chilling. They're going into the city and talking to the cops. Like they're like homies, bro. Like they're doing stuff together. And it's like I don't have a problem with him and Ruiz being boys, but like why did we get when you give these little breadcrumbs in the early stages of a film or in the late stages of a film, you expect that to have a storyline payoff, right? It's supposed to be like it's got to serve a purpose.
Yeah.
It just feels like a lot of things they put in the movie and didn't actually serve a purpose. And so it's like, what's the purpose of mentioning that Ruiz and him have beef, but then they're fine. They don't
See,
have any beef at all.
I took that differently. So I took that as, this is a small town, right? These people
Right.
are living on land that's far away from each other. So you know your neighbor, but you are like the farmer over here and they're the farmer over there. So it being a small town, I think they do a good job of implying that not everybody gets along all the time. And so I feel like they have to work together to get rid of this rotten. And so it's good to show that like they're not friends. I mean, they don't do that heavily. They're not like, oh, these guys hate each other. They never want to talk again. They're just kind of like, okay, well, I need your help. You need our help. And so we're going to work together on this. And so I mean, I don't know. I just thought it kind of built I think it kind of built a foundation for them having like poor teamwork whenever they were getting rid of the rotten. And I felt like it kind of built a foundation on, the main protagonist not being able to kind of control Ruiz all the time. So I just kind of took it as like, that's what they're setting up here, right? I didn't think it was fruitless. I saw how them not liking each other or not having a close relationship impacted the way that they made decisions getting rid of the rotten, which ultimately impacted the way the film was carried out after that. You see what I'm saying? So I kind of felt like it made sense to me.
It felt like frivolous, and it felt like to me a sign of and what I'll point out the major issue that I took with the story feeling a little scattered and a little like they don't really know what story they're trying to tell. So again, I see all your points, but I feel like again it didn't really serve. It doesn't have to be that deep. Like it doesn't have to be like, oh well, because I don't think it actually served any purpose to improve the film for us to know that Ruiz doesn't like this guy, because they didn't actually have any negative interactions. They didn't actually have any like situation where, oh, that's Ruiz doing what he wants because he hates him. Like that's not that to me. It just felt like a frivolous thing. Like you planted that seed, which made me like look forward to their falling out, look forward to like when this is going to pay off. And then the scene where Ruiz goes off the rails, Pedro was nowhere near it.
Well, it's just like I mean, I do think they hinted at like the fact that Ruiz doesn't Ruiz is a hothead that doesn't respect anybody but his own thoughts, feelings, and emotions. It seems like, right? He doesn't really show a lot of empathy towards anybody. And he's just trying to get the job done. Well, Pedro, it does show empathy and is trying to do what he considers to be the right thing, although he's scared shitless. But I mean, like even things like, Ruiz would be like, he would say something like, get back in the truck, or, like you can just see that they are not liking each other and they're both just trying to solve a mutual thing. So I think you're taking something small, and I read into that. Like it made sense to me. And I think that's the challenge with the foreign film too, is that one of us is watching facial expressions and main characters and picking up on things. The other one's reading subtitles, and who knows when one of us was reading, the other one was watching. Right. So,
and then you mentioned Pedro, and Pedro, he never, you don't know, what is he? what is he? Because he's empathetic.
He's Pedro.
And then he's a Chad. Then he's unshakable. Then he's a broken down, crying mess. And then he's angry. And then he's violent. His character was all over the place. Like he never was. They built him as like, again, and with the Ruiz angle, it makes sense to be like, okay, so Pedro is like, he's just chill. He's unshakable. He's stoic. He's just whatever. I'm gonna do this. And then he goes in and he talks to the cops, and like, the cops were like really hard on him, really fucking dismissive and aggressive with him, and he chills for a while. Then he like finally loses his cool, and that's all fine and good, and then like they build his brother as like, I'm telling you,
and so
it's such a mess. Like
hold on, let me get a thing in. So Pedro, his character starts out as a Chad, right? They hear gunshots. He's like, I'm gonna go check it out. You know what I mean? He's like loading his shotgun and all that. He's going out in the middle of the night. So like, I mean, he starts off that way, right?
He didn't even do it. He stopped and he was like, we'll go in the morning. Like he even showed like he's just inconsistent. But like,
so I think that is I wonder if a scenario like that happened to one of us, how consistent we might be. I think it's good to show that at points he's brave and at points he's like kind of he's falling apart because he just saw his, he saw people he loves get killed, and other times where he's like, I need to, he's frustrated. I think that's totally normal to kind of show that type of those level changes. And at one point he's a man of action and he's going to go get his kids and he's going to get them out of town. Other points he's a man of inaction.
Okay. All right. I concede that that's how you interpreted it and that's how you liked it and you enjoyed it. That's okay. So back to our dog friend who viciously attacks the little girl.
Yeah.
Threads her up, shakes her around. It's fucking awesome. Which it was awful, but it was awesome. It was like, I can't believe they're doing that. Like that kid had zero plot armor, and they didn't do it like off screen where like the dog attacks the girl. No, they showed us what the dog was doing to this girl. Drags her out, runs away. Everybody panics. It's Pedro's ex-wife's daughter with her new husband. I forget his name. It's like Christian, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember his name.
So that guy who allowed a dude to just barge into his home and take his clothes off and act crazy, now he's gonna go get his girl. He's gonna go save her. So he runs away, does it. Pedro goes out to help for a little while, but he's just trying to get his biological kids out of there. He's showing pretty quick that he's like, I don't give a fuck about these other kids and this person. I'm just trying to get my kids out. So we find ex-husband Magoo over the dog. The dog is laying on the ground. Ex-husband Magoo's got a gun, right? And then we see that the little girl has returned safely to her mother, to a mother and a group of people. And this little girl, like an angel, is untouched. She's beautiful. It is glistening. There's a light about her, right? Our ex-husband Magoo, stepfather Magoo, whatever.
He's not the stepfather. He's the father that stepped up, Doug.
It's true. Shoots the dog. Well, the little girl says to mom, Dad's gonna kill you with the car.
Gonna kill everyone, yeah.
Foreboding, right? And so the guy shoots the dog, and then he gets rotten infected, and he's crazy, right? So fast forward, the guy comes back, drives the car, hits the ex-wife with the car, drives her into the wall. She's dead as if, right? And then tee the little girl's dancing. She's so happy that her little prediction came to fruition. Pretty dope scene, pretty awesome. I was like, damn, this is cool. And I've learned a new rule. All right. So when a demon possesses a person, that person is not injured anymore. Because this little girl got shredded by the dog, just eviscerated. And she was pristine. She's great. So cool, man. I can't wait to see the next time the demon possesses somebody. And they're also fully healed and super dope. But that's not what happened, is it? Later on in the film, the mother who was driven into the wall with a car shows up at another location where Pedro and his brother and this new character who's like a witch doctor lady who's going to help them out with getting this thing exorcised. Mom shows up. Mom is fucked up. Mom got hit by a car.
Right.
We know she got hit. Yeah. She's fucked up. So this is another complaint that I had, an incongruency. It's like, why was the little girl restored and mom looks like a zombie from Resident Evil? She's shredded.
Yeah. Like, so I think that's a good point. So I wonder, when you talk about the dog scene, about, and I real quick, because you're kind of covering several different things real quick. So one, the dog scene is metal. We've talked about that. The thing I liked most about that is they weren't afraid to keep showing it, right? They would, like, it was like you saw the dog attack and that was like, oh shit, but then they like show it under the table and it was like throwing her head around. I was like, oh my God. And then it went away for a second. Then it came back and I'm like, oh my God, they're actually showing this thing. So I wish I had a great answer for you as to why she came back after the dog takes her away, and suddenly she comes back and she's totally normal. I wish I had a good answer for you. I can see that that's a inconsistency of some sort, or at least that it's not the same for all of them. I do know that they talked a lot about the Rotten having some type of relationship and connection with kids. And I don't know, obviously it doesn't heal them, but I just remember that that little girl came back not normal. But we've also seen that it has, I don't know. I will say that I didn't think that that was such I wasn't upset about that. Like, even though I noticed it, it wasn't like I'm angry about this rule set changing. It was like, it made it more cool. And I think that might be the only answer we get, is that it was very cool that she came back untouched and totally fine, but still like evil, saying everyone's gonna die and stuff. Maybe that's just maybe it's as simple as that.
And we got mom's dialogue. We got mom's dialogue, and that was great. There was a scene that we need to talk about only because we're going to talk about it later. But she gets on the phone with Pedro, and she's asking him to bring the kids back, and he tells her no. And then she starts talking about how she fucked a bunch of people, she cheated on him a bunch, and just really starts driving it home that he was a terrible husband and she never loved him and all this like really gross shit.
Yeah.
And so I will say on the topic, I would have automatically probably given it another half star if mom had come back healed too, and she was like a badass demon and not some, like, she was barely functional. She was like stumbling about, and that just, I don't like it when they're inconsistent like that, and that's okay. And again, Tally, I get what you're saying. Like, they can be inconsistent because it's a demon possessing people, and I just don't think you should have to like dive that deep to be like, well, clearly because they mentioned in one line of dialogue that the Rotten prefers kids and dogs and animals, right? So that's probably why. Like, it was too much for me to not. And again, I want to go all the way back to the beginning. I thought this was a good movie. I enjoyed it. I don't hate the movie. I just don't think it was a great movie. And I think a great movie doesn't have these incongruencies, doesn't have these things that you have to be like, wait, what? Why?
Well, and maybe it's doing something like where it's just showing what it can do, right? So there's maybe it can do that all the time, and it just chooses to sometimes choose. I mean, I think a lot of it is just uncovering what the Rotten is, what it isn't, what it can do, what it can't do. We didn't know that it had the ability to raise someone from the dead and have them make phone calls either until we had that scene, right? And so we don't know. I will say that when she came back untouched, I thought that the only reason that was, even if the answer is the only reason that happened is just because it looked cool for her to have that happen.
It was a great scene. Maybe,
yeah.
It was a great scene.
So I will say,
I liked it. I just wish they would have healed the mom too, so I could have felt like, okay, this is what
it's all together. Yeah, it's just it's the same always. Yeah, the mom showing up at the old teacher's house and taking the kid and jumping out the window, I thought was cool. I loved the car scene. I thought that was amazing.
You gotta talk about the car scene.
Well, I liked it because and for those of you who haven't seen the movie, the brother decides to go. They kind of split up. One goes this way. One brother and this like old teacher go one way, and they're gonna go and try to fight this rotten thing. The other brother says, "I'm gonna go try to stop." And I'm gonna go look for your son because the mom came back and took the son. So he's gonna go that way. Well, when he witnesses what she's done with the son, he like is consumed with emotion and rage. And she's like carrying him like a rag doll, by the way, which I thought was really
cool.
His
brains out of his
just eating his brains like it was sun chips, dude. It was awesome. So and then she gets hit by a car. So Doug, you said you want to talk about the car scene. Is there something in particular that you?
I'm upset, man.
They
did it again. They took a great scene and then threw something in there that, again, in the moment, I'm like, oh, no way. So the mom, demon mom, her head's to the window. She looks up at the brother, makes eye contact, and says, "You told me you loved me." And it's like, big reveal, brother had an affair with
I didn't pick up on this affair thing that you're talking about.
I'm not the only. Everyone that I've talked to about the film has agreed with me that that's why they did that.
Oh, you're telling hold on. Everyone always these
Brittany and LaRousse, two very intelligent women who watched the film. said that they were like, yeah, I get it, I see it, yeah, and it's like, oh, I was watching it with
one
Brittany.
intelligent. We'll let them debate on who's who. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you're an animal.
I'm gonna get in trouble.
We even said to each other, we're like, oh no way, it's an affair angle, sweet, because like to this point, the brother's been like ride or die with Pedro, right? So to me, I'm like, I'm with my little pea brain, my himbo brain, I'm piecing together like, oh, this is gonna be like a falling out sort of thing, or this is gonna be some sort of like pent up guilt, and like this is gonna be a big reveal. There's gonna be something's gonna happen here because like now we know that little brother who's been so loyal to Pedro is actually a little fucker. He cheated on.
Let me ask you a question. So if let's say there was an affair, right? And the brother who's so loyal to his other brother and has just been his right-hand man this whole movie, it is revealed that his cheating ex-wife that was running around town cheating on this guy also slept with the brother who was younger, right? And that's not totally out of the ballpark because the teacher that we meet turns out he had a fling with the teacher, so maybe he's into older chicks, right? So but if it was an affair and that's how it's revealed and it never comes back up, why is that a problem? I mean, it's like,
what's the point? Like you're doing big reveals. It feels like one of those things where you're just like doing a thing just to do a thing. Like, oh, look how deep.
Well, it's showing how the Rotten. I mean, just like the Rotten did the phone call with with Pedro, the main character, and started kind of speaking to all of his insecurities. Maybe its last shot at the brother was a shot at its insecurity.
That's a really good point. Maybe again,
that would be a consistency.
I'll give you that because maybe that was the way to just drive it in. Like you're a fucking dick. No matter how much you help your brother, you cheated him. You cheated on him. You fucked his wife, bro. You're not that great. You're not a saint. Okay, I'll give you that. That's something I hadn't really considered. I was looking for there to be more of a point beyond like just residual guilt and like.
Well, every time the Rotten
headset battery again, it keeps.
It's fine. Give me one. I'll jam here for a second. So every time the Rotten in this movie is threatened, no matter who it's inhabiting at that point, it always is using it's using deception, it's using misdirection, things like that to preserve itself. And so it's using misdirection to try to get whenever they're at the school and they're trying to get the people to go away, they're using misdirection so much so that they're like, you can't listen to the kids. They're one saying go this way, one saying go that way. When he wants the Rotten wants the kids to come back and get Pedro, they're the phone call and bring the kids back and everything. They use everything they can do to try to trick and deceive. And so I thought it was the Rotten's like last ditch effort to try to deceive or something, the brother, or it could be just speaking to insecurities, and that's how it does it, right? It's it's very manipulative.
And again, I will not concede my point about the zombie girl being fucking
normal again. Yeah, okay, I get that. That's fair.
I will concede that I can see. I don't like it. I don't like that there wasn't more of a payoff to that, but I will concede that could be just a play on like this is why he's so loyal to his brother because he has residual guilt for what he's done. Okay.
Yeah, I think it was meant to be like a moment where everybody goes, "Oh my gosh, that's a huge deal! I can't believe that this Rotten thing's exposing everybody out here." And then they thought they did a good enough job with just that reaction, but maybe the way they did it left us kind of wondering, like, is that going to come back up? Is that? I mean, I could see that.
Yeah. So then we move on to the final act. And you mentioned the school. You get to the school, and this is my last like. It's again, you have to do.
This one makes the least sense to me, but
to me, no. Yeah. Well, there's a few things. First of all, the Rotten, which was lost on a random highway somewhere, is now somehow at the school and under the stage, which was purportedly done by these little demon kids. So a bunch of kids like
possessed kids, yeah.
Possessed kids managed to like haul some fucking 400-pound blob that's like spewing pus and get him in there and then dismantle a stage and hide him and then remantle a stage. Like, I don't know. That to me, like, that felt like a really like what? Like, I don't.
Well, there was like 7 of them. So I mean, I don't know if it being 400 pounds, but it clearly like
get 7 fucking 50.
They could barely carry me.
No, yeah, and again, like I can give it that, like, because again, you have to like suspend disbelief. Like, well, maybe they had like some demon dudes that did it. I don't know, but it just to me it felt like okay, he's under the stage, and like the amount of effort they had to take to dismantle the stage to get to the Rotten, it's like that all had to be done. at one point. They had all be covered up, and these little kids like fucking Bob the Builder it. Like it just that was, and again, not a huge deal. I can suspend disbelief enough to be like, this is cool. This is a cool thing. But the real thing that pissed me off is that literally Pedro has been lied to by these demon children. They know they're demon children. These are little rotten kids, right? So Pedro is sitting there and he's trying to get the stage dismantled and he wants to get down there. And the kid's like, oh, there's a fire axe in the office. And Pedro's like, oh, chill. And he just goes to get it. Like, what? Why are you listening? And this was like the final act. And then it wasn't even a great payoff. They just like kind of like lazily killed the lady. They like lazily killed the witch doctor lady. These kids who were powerful enough to haul a 400-pound behemoth and then dismantle a stage, hide him, and then remantle. I don't even know if remantle is the thing, but I said it twice now because that's funny.
You're gonna remantle it. Yeah.
Remantle it.
Reassemble, build.
And then they were just like, hey, yeah. And they just like killed her with like a little hammer hit. And it's like, okay.
Well,
Like we've seen kills in this movie. We've seen kills in this movie that were shocking and thrilling and exciting. We've seen a dog shred a child. We've seen a woman kill herself with an axe. We've seen all this crazy shit. And you were just like, hey, yeah, okay, we're gonna pull her out.
Yeah.
And like, why did Pedro go? Like he's been the guy who's like making all the right moves. And then Pedro's like, hey, I've spent this entire film telling you not to kill it. I'm gonna kill it now because I'm mad. Like it just
right.
I think like the final incongruency act of fucking.
Let's unpack. Let's unpack what you've said. Okay, so step one is how did the rotten get under the stage? How do these kids make that happen? I don't know if we're ever gonna know. There could be kids carried him there. There were other dead bodies underneath there, so maybe he had possessed adults carry him there, and then the kids killed the adults. And I don't know, right? It also has been growing in strength, so maybe it carried itself. Who knows, right? I do understand that they needed to hide it because it wasn't done with its work yet. So I get, even if it was, let's say, strong enough to carry itself there, it would still need to be in hiding. And then the part where the only thing in this movie that I really had an issue with, until you brought up some of the issues that you have with the movie, I didn't even consider them just because it wasn't a problem for me before. But if you were to ask me what problems did I have with the movie, the only one I had was the axe, of him going to get the axe. I'm like, are you kidding me? I feel like you had to do that simply to make the ending what you wanted, but you couldn't get there another way. So Pedro had to do something completely stupid. Because so far he's been pretty logical. I don't want to say logical and reasonable, but he's pretty solid.
He's been
solid the whole time.
He's been the voice of reason the whole film, right?
Like if Ruiz did that, it would make so much more sense. Exactly. Yeah.
Or even the brother, like maybe the brother does it because he's like, I feel so guilty. I just need to fix this. Like they could have done it in a better way. And then the witch doctor is literally like, do not leave me alone with them. They are going to kill me. And he's like, back in 5. Baby.
Yeah, I had a problem with that too. I mean, yeah. So that one for me took it from a high star rating to take a half point off or whatever, because that is going to frustrate a lot of people. So the third thing you mentioned was the way in which they killed her with the hammer. So I have this thing where like blunt objects like hitting a head or something like that over and over and over again, I think is just cool. I think it's not cool. It's metal as shit. Right. And so like that sound of like that, just the, so I don't know, like I thought it was cool that they were dragging her away and they were just so mindless about it. And then there's that little girl that was just like tink, tink, over and over again. And so I feel like there's something about, it's one thing to see an axe go into a skull. Right. And I thought they did that really cool too. It wasn't like, it wasn't gimmicky. It was just like how you would imagine that would be IRL. But the hammer was kind of one of those things like, the trauma of that. I thought for, at least for horror, it was cool to have I want to call it like a slow death almost, of like, that's like 17 hammer hits, you know what I mean? It's
maybe I'm just being like, I feel like that was our final kill scene. It was our big payoff. And it was just kind of like, it happened for a stupid reason, and then it was meh.
Let me ask you this: if they had her get on her knees and took a samurai sword and cut her head off, would you consider that metal? It's like, well, no.
If they would have climbed her like a tree and just ripped her into pieces, would have been pretty dope. Because they're obviously superhuman powers.
Or like eating her or something like that, like one bite at a time. Yeah,
something dope. Like I feel like it should have been something like they should have just been like, because we just got so much in the movie. But again. All right.
I could say that like, look, it wasn't like my favorite death in any horror movie ever. I didn't have any problems with it. I thought the slow hammer hits. It kind of reminded me of like, you know, in Texas Chainsaw Massacre with the girl's head over the bucket kind of thing.
Yeah,
Of just
that
like
was pretty
the sound of like dead, like a skull getting hit by like a blunt object is terrifying. And so seeing it and seeing those hits happen, and also let me just say this: a hammer is a deadly weapon, right? With a grown adult hitting with the hammer, of course you're gonna get some big type of you know, trauma with that. For a little kid to hit with a hammer, for it to not be like like that slow.
These little kids can move a 600-pound ogre, and these little kids can dismantle and remantle a stage.
Seven of them carried it, right, Doug? Not one.
They're magic, powerful children, right? Again, I'm getting like frustrated at this point.
No,
like,
because I am no. I said no. Okay.
Stages of film, I'm just starting to get frustrated with.
I said 7 kids earlier might have carried it. It was one little girl with a hammer, and I think that like I think we've all agreed over the course of our horror lives that little people or dolls or leprechauns or whatever carrying knives and axes and shit is scary. So I think that I don't know, but either way,
it wasn't a big payoff.
So what do you rate? So what do you rate the movie then? Because I think we're not
done. We're not done.
Well, okay,
the ending. We haven't even talked about the ending, which was the worst part. This was.
I was trying to get out of it.
When we were talking about endings in films, we were talking about "No One Will Save You" was like ambiguous for story. It was ambiguous. Like this one was one of those ones that I think they just didn't have any fucking clue what they were gonna do next. They were like, "Well, it's over now." We find out. So Pedro's oldest son is autistic, and he's very autistic. And we find out, which is, I thought this was awesome, was how they were talking about how like the Rotten has a really hard time getting into his mind because his mind doesn't work like a, you know, basic human's mind, because autistic minds are literally better than regular minds, right? They're so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So like it takes them a while to get in, but they finally do get in. And then they did that. They invaded his mind and they got in. And so we see the autistic son is walking around. He's able to talk normally, just like a standard human communication.
He's inaudible, or he's non-vocal. Sorry, non-verbal.
Non-verbal.
For the whole movie. Yeah.
And he goes verbal, and he walks in, and you know in the movie not only is he non-verbal, but he's, you know, he needs help to walk and he needs help moving around. And he walks in and speaks to his grandmother, says something about making tea. And he's just totally like, he's Chad mode now. He's like, oh, demons in him, rotten's in him. We know that. So at the conclusion of the film, after Pedro makes the unexplainable decision to just kill the Rotten, after all this time he spent the entire film telling everyone else not to kill him, he gets mad because he lost his witch doctor.
He said not to shoot him, but go ahead.
So he kills it. He kills it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The main demon is led into human form. He gets up. He's a red boy. He walks by and just.
It was like an Antichrist birth or something. Yeah.
It's time to go. It's time to go fuck up this planet, right? So he takes off. So we're back at Pedro and his brother's home. They live together, and their son is back to being inaudible. He's eating the apple ice cream that he was promised in the first act of the film. Everything's chill, and then we come to find out that he has eaten his grandmother off screen. He ate her.
Hell yeah, he did.
It's disgusting. It was very brutal, pretty sweet. He pulls the hair out.
I actually kind of gagged at that part a little bit. I was like, ugh.
Oh, gross. I didn't gag because I'm too strong to gag, but I definitely would have gagged if I was a normal person. And then, you know, so now Pedro is coming to the realization that his mother was eaten by his son. So this to me was kind of an incongruency. I don't know why. We never saw someone possessed get unpossessed, but with the son, he was unpossessed. He was back to being nonverbal, back to being seemingly just, you know, back to prior form. Now I will give you, because you've made me think critically. It's possible that we found out that it was difficult for the Rotten to possess somebody with autism. Maybe it's difficult for them to continue to. Maybe they like can only stay for so long.
Yeah, there's a part in the movie that kind of gives you hints of that. So when it talks about having a hard time possessing those with special needs, it was talking about his hands. And he was in the backseat of the car, and it was the teacher who had previous experience with the Rotten and fighting the Rotten, etc. And it goes into the detail of that, where she's like, look at his hands, and his hands are like contorted. And so it's showing that the Rotten or the demon can affect, right? Can affect the son, but we just don't know to what degree. So you can see that he's struggling. And the hard thing is with his particular type of autism, you don't know. You only really know his behavior is dramatically changed from what's normal because you don't get a lot of time to get to know him. Only whenever he walks in the house, he's talking totally normal, and you know, and he's eats the grandmother, right? You don't really know anything like that, but we just
We
don't.
don't see him eat the
It's
grandmother. We
you.
find out later.
I feel like if we were to go back and pay attention, maybe they show progression, which I didn't really notice. Right? You notice the hands at first. He stays out in the car. So I wonder
Why was
if
he?
each time they show
Why
him,
was
I
he
wonder.
unpossessed? Though? Why did he get unpossessed? Like, what's the
Well,
point
I
of?
feel like
Is it because the guy got out? Like, is it because remember that happened? The possession happened before the Rotten was killed. The source Rotten, right? And the Antichrist boy came out. Like, maybe I'll give it that.
yeah,
Maybe,
it could be that. It could be that he just
maybe
lost control, right?
yeah.
The rotten
But I
lost
guess that's
control.
where I'm complaining is like I don't think you should have to think that deep. I don't think it should have to be
Yeah,
that.
because you're a fan of Terrifier. That's why you think those things.
No, no, it's not at all.
You
I'm a
think you
fan of a
shouldn't
lot
have
of
to think that deep.
complicated. I'm a
you're
fan of a lot of
you're
complicated.
criticizing this. Listen, hold on. For those of you at home, Doug is criticizing the story of When Evil Lurks, and when you watch it, it has certainly some inconsistencies that Doug has pointed out that to me were not majorly dramatic, but the story itself is so unique and different and interesting, and I think they do a good job telling it.
That'll be
They
reflected on my score.
they close the story. Doug is a guy that is now critiquing the story of When
They
Evil
close
Lurks.
the story. No, they don't close the story. That's the problem. It has like a completely ambiguous ending. You have no idea what happened. You have no idea what.
When I say close the story, I'm talking about we see what happens at the end with Pedro. We see what happens at the end with his brother, and these characters die. The child is born, and it walks off into the sunset with the children, which is the same image that the autistic son was holding as a picture, and that's the picture that he wanted to take, that we had to make sure he had with him before he left home. It's very important to him, which shows
I didn't track that actually. I thought that was his family. That's crazy.
no, there's a picture that shows a red sun.
No,
Yeah,
I know. I remember now. I remember
so
now.
which
I
also
didn't track that.
shows parts of I don't know if it is a clairvoyance or what you would call it, but certainly the autistic son knew some things, or at least had some visions or something proactively before all this stuff went down. But either way, I just feel like to say the story ended ambiguously is true. To say that they didn't close the arc on a lot of our main characters and close the arc on what happened with the Rotten in the school, they had a climax. And so,
Yeah,
but I feel like you're critiquing a story that is like a pretty complicated. I feel like it's a pretty complicated, interesting, unique story, and you're sitting there talking about the performances of Terrifier. So it's like I hear what you're saying, but I think that do they not get any grace for being that for challenging the genre that much?
They gotta do a better ending, man. Like the ending doesn't. You don't learn. Nothing got closed out. You don't learn what was the purpose of the film. Like what did Pedro learn? What did he change? Like what? How about he just is like sad now. Everybody's dead, and I did a bad thing, and we don't know. We don't know what the consequences were of that. We don't know what the consequences for him personally or for like the global consequences. We don't know anything. It was one of those like I watched the whole film and I waited for the payoff. Like, what's the big ending? And then it just ends. It just ends.
Now,
With
if they
him
would have
at his
like,
house, sad, and he finds out. They find out that one of the little kids from the. This is another thing too. Is like they just throw in there like, oh, by the way, this character you forgot existed. Like, did a bunch of crazy shit earlier. The little kid that was like staying in the barn. Like, oh yeah, I killed my mom and ate her, and I killed the guy.
lied about it, yeah.
I was coming to do the exorcism. I did all these things, and you just kind of, oh, by the way, this all happened off screen, just FYI. And so like that to me it almost felt like the movie was short. It was like an hour and a half. They could have done a 2-hour movie and given us more of that story and given us a proper ending of some sort, because a lot of stuff is left open. Like the brother cheated with the wife and he's still living with his brother. His brother's a broken man now. He let the demon out. His mom got eaten by the kid. You don't know what that's going to do to his relationship with his kid. You don't know what that's going to do with any, like, it's just, and he's got, that's the child that he has left because he lost his other child. It just felt like there wasn't a payoff for all the time invested, and it was so complex. And so for me, if I'm watching a film that's very complicated, very complex, very deep, like I expect a payoff from that, And
I felt satisfied at the end. I was frustrated with Pedro's decision with the axe. Very frustrated. I was like, you idiot, moron, dummy, dumb, stupid, dumb Alaskan idiot, Pedro. But I don't have a problem with the ending as far as walking away into the sunset and not seeing what happens after. Because I feel like that is, the difference between the times the Rotten has been in town before or has come before, it's been dealt with. And so I don't think anybody knows what comes next. And I think that's kind of the point is like, every time the Rottens come out, it's been cleansed, right? It's been cleansed. This is the first time that it's gotten out. And so, I mean, would it have made you more satisfied if it did a slow, slow pullback into like, a view of Earth and you just see a bunch of nuclear explosions happening and a dark cloud, like the
I would
world
have felt
ends or
more
something? You would
satisfied.
have felt
I felt
okay.
more satisfied if like the story that they were telling was like Pedro is a man who's trying to redeem himself, because we get a little bit of hint that he had like trouble prior to this whole film taking place. The police do not like Pedro, and they're talking about he had some issues, some domestic issues with his wife when they were married. And then there's a reference to things that he apparently like blocked a heater or blocked an air conditioning. He blocked something that caused like smoke in the house, and then like the brother defends him saying like, no, that was the story she made up to try and get the kids, kind of thing.
Right.
And so we've learned a lot about Pedro over the course of the film. He is our protagonist. So to me, if the story they're building and telling is like, this is a guy, again, even with all the inconsistencies with his character, like if that's what they were trying to tell us, that he's like on the edge of losing it, he finally loses it and then just releases this demon. I want to see consequences for that. I want to see like
But
what that meant, what
do you
that
see,
means.
I mean, because I feel like we could just argue about this for days. Do you see any value in the fact that it's showing that, people have a life outside of demons and you don't plan when the demon's coming. You don't plan on when the Rotten's coming, and that how your day-to-day lives and the decisions that you've made and the path that you were on when it came can affect how you're being received. So like if I had a DUI, right, and then all of a sudden the demons came and I got in a car and a cop pulls me over and I'm like, no, you don't understand, blah 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 blah. Like, I mean, I feel like it adds that, like, you don't really know.
I don't have a problem with that. I like that they did that. I like that they built up that he had
Like
a
he's got to
past.
he's got to have a story,
Broken man.
right?
I want to see the payoff to that. I want to see like, oh, so he at the end he loses. He ended the earth. He ended the world, and like he does lose, but like why did he lose, and what did it even mean? That to me is, again, I just think it was like what I mentioned before with No One Will Save You. I think it was a lazy finish to a movie that like they put a lot of thought and effort into telling like a complex and weaving a tale, and then the payoff is like, I don't know what it meant. I don't know what any of it meant. The demon came,
But now that I've
got
challenged
relieved.
kind of that thought process of like, okay, well, this is the first time the Rottens won, right? It's come a lot and it's lost a lot as far as cleansing, and that people don't know what happens next, right? And that it leaves the audience not knowing what's coming next. It also could be hinting at a second one, right? And so there's
Hope it
maybe.
does. I know, and I might be willing to revisit the film if we get a sequel that like kind of fleshes more of this stuff out. I would watch the sequel. Like I said, we can get to the ratings now if we want, because I think that's the last of my.
Is the sequel called When Evil's Lurking? Because it gets,
Yeah,
get it? When Evil's there now?
when evil finishes lurking and then arrives is the film's title.
when
Like, no,
when evil shows up, dude.
when evil shows up and bros up. No,
All right, what's your rating?
I give it a solid 3. It's because again, I know I shit on it a lot, but it was very so. I spent a lot of time talking about what I didn't like, but I did like there was some great kill scenes. It was very well acted. Like the performances individually and collectively were like very good. The practical effects were awesome. I wanted to call. I would love to call it a 4. I feel like there's like a few like minor tweaks they could have made. Remove the idea of him just randomly going to get the axe. I still think they shouldn't have teased the affair thing, because I don't think it really served any purpose. I didn't like that they teased that Ruiz was an enemy of Pedro, and then they're just like broing out forever. And he's like listening to Pedro. Like Pedro's telling him not to do stuff, and he's listening. Like that just to me feels
So
like
you're giving it a 3.5, a flat 3. So let me ask you this. So you've said that the acting was good. I agree. You've said that the story was unique and interesting, right? It's a new take. I think that you said that, or you said something about the story.
It was a very fresh take on the possession, John.
Okay, so then the effects were great. I feel like the something you said before about Leatherface as well as Art the Clown. You said that they were so iconic, or that the murder scenes were so metal that it makes up for either whether it be bad sequels or it makes up for not as strong of a movie or whatever. do the scenes themselves, we've talked all about the story and the lack of consistency in some areas. Do the horror scenes themselves not make up for?
No.
I'm just trying to get you to move to this to a 3.5 is all I'm trying to do. I feel like
I won't do 3.5
because I feel like
I think I came into this cast planning on giving it like 2.5, and
but if you were to get a review at work, let me just tell you this: a review at work is 3 is good, right? That's like a
I said it was a good. I've said from the beginning.
You just think it's just good.
It's just good. It's not great.
God, that is such a tough crowd. So I'm interested to see what people think in the comments below. I'll give it a 4. All right. I feel like again, I'm gonna reevaluate what I give 4s and 5s, but I'm happy with No One Will Save You being a 4. I'm happy with When Evil Lurks being a 4 because I feel like what they had were very similar in a lot, like what they provide to you. Ambiguity and cool story and great acting and great cinematography and great effects. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a 4 too. A 4 as well.
It hurts me to put this on the same level, for you to put this on the same level as No One Will Save You when that movie was.
Why? Chat. I almost said chat. Chat. Whoever. Please in the comments below. Please give these ratings yourselves. I would be really interested to go through, and if you just list out each one and say what your ratings are for it. Yeah, I'd really be interested to hear what you think. If you're going to be, we're going to see a lot of like Price is Right answers of like 3.5 right in the middle. So, okay, well we've got it.
Good, not great.
Yeah, we got a third. I politely yet firmly disagree. You're a Terrifier fan. I cannot believe you gave this a 3, and Terrifier's I don't know, whatever the hell you said earlier. It was like a 2.5.
I gave OG Terrifier like 2.5, but
fair.
I give it personal. I give it higher because it's the birth of the Art the Clown story.
The story of Art the Clown. It's not the story. So, but we've got a third one to unpack, Doug.
Yeah, and what we did is we sandwiched a very brutal, very metal film, very like thought-provoking film, in between 2 PG-13 horrors. One that we've agreed is a great story, excellently crafted universe. There was all kinds of different elements, and then the other one is Five Nights at Freddy's, which we both I think personally enjoyed, but I don't think it's on the level of the films that we watch for different reasons, right?
Yeah. I would say that I would watch it again if the kids wanted to.
Yeah.
It's not something that I'm going to go out and just seek to watch again. You know what I mean? So both movies we mentioned, I would absolutely 100% watch again. Five Nights at Freddy for me, I appreciated that Blumhouse did it, right? They brought us some iconic horror movies, and they've been a leading charge in horror for quite a while. And so it was easy to get excited saying, okay, well, we've got a legit studio doing this, right? And then you see the actors and actresses in it, and it's like, okay, we have a legit actors and actresses in it. We don't get that all that time, right? I'm gonna call them actors and actresses. Okay, your face is a cast.
I was doubling down with you. I was like, you're a cast, bro. Like,
No, you're correct. You're trying to correct me.
I didn't even correct. If we're gonna do multiple movies in a row, you have to not take your fucking baggage from When Evil Lurks into Five Nights at Freddy's. This is a clean slate.
I'm already ready to argue. Okay, so Blumhouse.
And I said to you, I was like, yeah, they had a cast. I was emphasizing the thing you were saying. I was being boys.
Is that okay? Good. Well, I feel like you not only emphasized it, but you projected it because like the metal on your face like pushed the signal out further, and it offended me.
Those are your personal insecurities talking. Go on.
Okay, so Blumhouse is great, right? I think Blumhouse is great. Legit casters and actresses, and then we've also got a budget, and so it's like, okay, budget, all those things say we're gonna have a good movie, right? But I feel like what the hard thing for Five Nights at Freddy that missed for me was that they have to make it PG-13. There's a lot of meat on this bone for them to keep making Five Nights movies, right? There's a bunch of games. There's a whole. It's got a whole thing, and so they have to make it good enough that people will want to see the second one. But as someone that's not a Five Nights fan, so my 16-year-old Jackson he's a mega fan, and he loved it. So I was like, okay, well that has some points there, right? If fans of this series or fans of this game like it, then maybe I'm missing something. I thought the best thing was the animatronics. That was the best
Yeah.
thing. The acting was good, but the writing and the story kind of where it just took a weird turn in the middle. And I was just like, okay, well, I don't really get the whole friendship thing. And now we've got this daughter in here, or the younger sister in there. And they try to do the whole thing where they're telling a story within a story within a story where the brother or the main character is trying to figure out what happened, trying to you sack of wine. I hate you so much. Your hat is dumb. Everything about your chair smells like cheese right now. I guarantee it. He is trying to figure out what happened to like his younger brother the whole time, like in the movie. So I don't know, man. I feel like you can tell legit studio did it. You can tell the acting was good. Something just there was not, it just wasn't there for me. So I just didn't love it. I didn't hate it. Wouldn't watch it again just because I feel like there's better options to watch.
Okay, so I will say that you're absolutely correct on the point that it was they had to make this movie. They had to make money. It was a movie to make money, and so
Right.
they had to do PG-13 because they had to get the kids in. Because PG-13 in 2023 doesn't mean only 13-year-olds are going. People are bringing their 8 and 10-year-olds to this movie. Like
Sure.
it's going to be a PG-13. They're going to make a lot of money off of it. And so they were hamstrung by that. They were also hamstrung by the fact that they were kind of like loosely following the story of the first game, which is a very old game. So it's like there were limiting factors to like what they could do creatively. They Tally, you mentioned, like they needed this to be a success so they could greenlight the rest of the films because this is going to be a series. They needed it to be PG-13. They needed it to at least resemble the story in the first game because people are going to want that. And even with all those limitations, I thought it was very, very good. Like it was a very fun movie. It was well acted, well produced. The animatronics were incredible. There were no major story incongruencies where I was like, "Wait, what?" Like you talked about the friendship angle. That makes perfect sense to me. Like
You know what it
the
felt like?
animatronics were. Go ahead.
Yeah, the animatronics. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're
You know
fine.
what it
Go on.
felt like to me? I just thought about this. It
Yeah.
felt like if Scooby Doo met Transformers.
I
Like
mean,
it's
that's
like
a
a
decent. Yeah,
it's like a
that's decent. Yeah.
Transformers esque type of vibe to it. Like the action, the we got to go save them, that kind of shit. And then the Scooby Doo of like the big reveal of like, ooh, the mystery, the intrigue, but it really wasn't that mysterious the entire time.
I thought it was great. I thought it was great. And then
Yeah,
you kind of learn like there's some things you like, the cop lady is like, she ends up being tied into the big bad, and the big bad ends up being someone we know. And there's I will say that one
it was
one
very
thing
predictable though, I thought.
I didn't think it was, but I'm
So
not a
Jackson was
predictor.
watching it, and
But
again, he's got a little bit of context, right? But he was watching it, and he instantly, when they showed the big bad guy, Jackson was like, "Man, it's weird that he's talking about this job, and he's like smiling all creepy during it, and he's like, that guy's weird. There's something off with him." Like he called that, and then Samantha, whenever Victoria was, they overplayed her withholding information where it was like, okay, just tell us what you are and what you're doing. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
tell us who you are and why this is so important to you. So I just felt like that was kind of predictable. And that's the Scooby Doo esque part of it, where it's like, you only met so many people in this movie to see, how it kind of goes. Like, and they were acting funny on purpose, like, obnoxiously withholding info or like, oh, you can go stay there and it doesn't pay well. It's an overnight thing, Let me know if you change your mind. This
I
is
mean,
weird.
it's a PG-13 horror movie targeting children. I thought that was like pretty commensurate with the whole thing. And then again, like I mean, yeah, Jackson knew what was going on because Jackson played the games,
It's Scooby
bro.
Doo.
Like, come on, I'm just saying. Okay, so I thought it was great, not great. I thought it was good, and I'm gonna give it bonus points because I think that it was very successful, and it's gonna spawn a series of films that are gonna continue to improve as because they again, Tally loves to talk about this, and this is a Tally fucking. It was a safe movie. It was a
Yes,
safe
very
movie.
safe.
It
Yes.
was very safe. And so yeah, it was limited by being tied to the first story. It was limited by PG-13, but even through all that, it was a good movie. Again, I would rewatch it, and I'm pretty stingy about what I rewatch. I'm gonna rewatch it with my community. Like it was good. And again, the animatronics were dope. The reveal was exciting. It's exciting to learn more about the big bad in the next film. They didn't give us too much. I didn't think it was overly predictable, but I also wasn't watching it trying to figure it out. I was just trying to, I was like, I know nothing about Five Nights at Freddy's. I want to go into this and just like experience it.
Well, I'm excited for a very long kind of new franchise. I like franchises. I like kind of following a story. I feel like the franchise, if they actually do a franchise with this, that can sway my opinion on the first movie and the third movie, and they kind of get another chance at it. So I'm excited for horror kind of getting a big W in that sense of a good franchise that we think most people are really excited for it to come out, right? I think that maybe again, just my opinion, where we know that I'm not a Splatterhouse kind of guy, and we know that I'm not a safe horror type of person. Again, just because I watch so much, and so it gets boring to me when it's safe. It's not that it's bad; it's just boring to me. So I appreciated the animatronics that those. I appreciate that they tried to make it a real horror movie. You know what I mean? Like they were not. I kind of thought maybe they're gonna do like a gimmicky thing. Or try to even go too far with it and make it like a competitor to Willy's Wonderland. No, they made it like a legit horror film that a kid could watch, and you certainly get like the jump. It would be a great kid's like first horror movie.
Oh yeah,
it's a serious horror movie.
Horror film, yeah.
My first horror movie ever was Child's Play, and it ruined me for a decade or more. And so for people getting into horror as a kid, you know, I think for us being from the 80s, right? Late 70s for you, Doug? I don't know. But being born in the 80s, I feel like our versions of, there was no Five Nights at Freddy's for us to watch. It was like you're going straight into
I watched Pet Cemetery.
Yeah, like you're going right into it.
Fuck, bro.
Yeah, your life is getting ruined. And so I think that's good. I think that's a positive. I just
hit me with that rating, Eric.
I'm gonna give it I'll give this one a 3. I think it's fine. It's fine. I'm not going to deny that it was well done. I'm not going to deny that it was interesting. I enjoyed the animatronics. I enjoyed getting to understand a little bit of the background of Freddy and all that. It was fine. I would watch the second one for sure. But movies that are going to take force from me are going to be the When Evil Lurks and Barbarian and Smile, and movies that just kind of have a different take on horror. I think that's just because I'm biased. I watch too much.
I'm going to give this one a solid 4.5. Putting it above, no, I'm just capping. I'm capping. Oh
my God, I almost lost it, dude.
You're going to shit your pants. No.
You should have stuck with that and just like let it go for a second.
Yeah.
Because I was about to just come unglued.
He was about to quit. People, he was about to quit the podcast. We can't do this anymore. No, I'm going to give it a same score. Solid 3.
Yeah, it's fine.
I was worried that you were going to be upset when I said 3, because I thought you were going to give it lower, and then I was going to be like, you think this is the same as When Evil Lurks, and then I was going to have a really fun time with that. But no, I put it on the same level as When Evil Lurks. Like, it was a good movie.
Crazy.
So it was a good movie, and I'll look forward to learning more about the universe if they decide to teach us. And they will with Five Nights at Freddy's, because we'll mention that this movie has had like unprecedented horror success. Like,
well, I'm interested in it, right? So like I feel like for me to call a movie trash, I feel like it has to be almost valueless, right? And so I feel like movies that are so bad that they're good, you know, I think of like Jeepers Creepers 2, I think of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, movies that are just so over the top bad that they're good. I think there's value in that. I've got some favorites that are like that. I enjoy watching those. If they are, you know, again, I think if you're safe, you're going to be a 3, right? And so it's the ones that don't play it safe, that try to do something, that they're going to get caught in the 2s or the 4s. Either it paid off or it didn't. And so that's why, for example, Terrifier to me is a 2, an easy 2. All Hallows Eve is a 1.5. You know what I mean? Yeah, where they took a risk. They took a risk, and I don't think it paid off for me. Five Nights at Freddy's didn't take any risk, and it's a 3. And I think that those type of safe movies will always be 3s. And then movies that took a risk and it had some payoff to it, had more to that, those would be 4s. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that being said, Doug, do you change your mind on When Evil Lurks?
No.
You think you think it's a safe movie?
No, I didn't say it was. See, your star litmus, your number litmus is different than mine. I don't say like, oh.
But how do you give things ratings then? Because I kind of explained my mentality on the ratings.
I mean, I kind of I lead with my heart, not with my brain a lot. So like for me, it's like, how did the movie? Because you were laughing, but like I literally am like high functioning autistic,
No, but
right?
like
So
it's
like a lot of things,
typical
I
himbo.
don't consume media the same way as a person with a neurotypical brain does. So for me, like I was proud of myself for remembering fucking names from When Evil Lurks. 'Cause I
I'm
have a
shocked. I
hard
thought you
time.
were looking him up or something.
Yeah,
I wasn't gonna
no,
call
I
you out on
swear to
that,
you,
but I was
I
like,
swear to you,
when
that
you
was
said
off
Pedro
memory.
and Ruiz, I was like, I didn't even
Yeah.
remember that
And
shit.
again, that should speak to the fact that I really wanted to like the movie. I really invested in the movie, and I really paid attention to the movie, Eric. But but
Eric,
I'm saying like,
Eric.
but for me, it's like there's no like tangible way for me to say how my stars are gonna work or my numbers are gonna work, because like for me, I give all kinds of like determining factors. Like for me, I probably, if I wasn't sure that Five Nights at Freddy's was about to spur a fucking series of films that are going to continue to explore the story, I probably would have gone lower than 3. But because I know that,
That's
and
fair.
because of the commercial success and what it means for horror and what it means for family friendly horror, like it gets bonus points in that for me. You
Okay,
know?
so you
And then when Evil Lurks took risks, and I acknowledged them, and I thought there was a lot of things to love about it, but overall, the things that bothered me enough to bring it down from. There's no way I can put that movie and No One Will Save You on the same level, because No One Will Save You was a truly like mind-blowing film for me, and not a single time was I like, I don't like that, or oh, that was weird, or oh, they could have done something different
well,
there.
like so,
And when
but
Evil Lurks comes down.
No One Will Save You killed it on the story and killed it on they killed it in every category except
Yeah.
they didn't have like any hardcore gore, blood, or like metal scenes, which I know you and I both put value in those, right?
Yeah.
When I think of like Evil Dead Rise, it's not like Evil Dead Rise story was brilliant, Mark Twain-esque type of great book type of
We'll talk
story.
about it. It was better than you think it was, if
But
you're saying that. But okay, go on.
but I mean, I'm saying like in comparison to it wasn't a No One Will Save You. It wasn't a When Evil Lurks. It wasn't anything like that. And so it wasn't a Nope. It wasn't Barbarian. And so like,
Barbarian, great stories. When Evil Lurks was a mess.
but I feel like those metal scenes do. I feel like it did it better than
Yeah,
most.
that kept it from being a 2 because of the dog.
What?
So, yeah, we'll go on.
So
we're gonna
we
close
found that
here.
we found that Doug's rating system is very himbo-esque.
Awesome.
Five, Doug feel good. 3, Doug feel fine.
Oh, my
2
battery
or
died.
1, Doug feel bad.
The favorite thing is when Eric rants about how dumb I am.
Doug feeling bad about stuff, that's a 1. But Doug feel happy, that's a 5. Doug feel fine.
Here's the other thing too, Eric. Here's the other thing too. Okay, not everybody that listens to this podcast, like, oh, I wear a fucking sweater and I smoke cigars. Like some people that listen to this podcast have 9-to-5 jobs. They're out there in the fucking coal mines. They're grinding, bro. And they don't have time.
I have more in common with them.
They don't have time.
I have more in common with them than you do.
Shut up, but not mentally. All right, so you have to write a dissertation. They don't have to write a dissertation every time they watch a fucking film. They can just watch a movie and be like, "Hell yeah, brother! There was some blood. It was some funny shit."
Doug was talking about people working 9-to-5s in the coal mines, and I was like, "You have nothing." He goes, not mentally.
Man, somebody has to represent the working class in this podcast. All
Doug
right?
mentally is in the coal mines every day. You have no idea.
Day I'm grinding, bro. You got
coal good.
The black lung.
Coal good, paycheck bad, danger bad. Doug.
Listen, I told you I'm getting really close to working my way out of poverty level, Eric. You need to stop trying to drag me down. All right, so you can be. That's the thing. That's the beautiful thing about chemistry is that like we have it, right? So you can be the guy that is like, oh, hoity-toity, Terrifier is boring. It's just gross for no reason. And you'd be like, oh my god, the movie was in Spanish. It's incredible. Like you can be that guy. And I'll be the guy that's like, why the fuck is this thing not telling me what happened? This is dumb. So
yeah, no, we'll have a little transition. Did I almost burn my cashmere? Oh my gosh. Oh no, we're good. I thought my cigar got on my cashmere sweater. I'm sorry.
It's funny. It's funny.
I don't know what this is.
It's good to have two perspectives. And then one thing you can be sure of is if the both of us, like we both dropped a 4 on No One Will Save You. Like that means that like most demographics are going to enjoy that film.
Yeah, whether you're in the coal mines or whether you're smoking cigars and on your yacht,
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up.
All right, so that was really fun.
Follow our Twitch channels, Tally Ho Bro with a 0 on Twitch, and then Running Man on Twitch. The links will be posted below, and we will catch you guys next time. If you have any recommendations or things that we need to talk about, whether it be topics, movies, whatever it is, let us know in the comments and let us know your ratings. We love you.
Or Twitter at HimboCast.
Twitter at HimboCast. Yeah, there you go.
Hit us up.
Okay, bye.
Bye. See ya.
Bye.